Hello guys, welcome to Java JSON, and we are going to discuss one video is very important, and I hope if you learn this video definitely you can get a clarity like how exactly data type will work and how we can select the particular data types, and that is very important video, so please don't miss this video. Okay, let's start now. So let us assume I don't know anything and I am a new developer and I don't have any idea about the Java data types and how I can store my data, those things. Okay, and I want to store some data like 5. I have a value for called 5 and I want to store it. What I can do it? Simply you can create one variable called int a equal to 5. So this is the way we can store one variable value which is 5 inside the a. Right, no issue in that. Okay, so if I want to store some character, I want to store some character like C. How can I store it? So I can create one char ch type variables and I will store this character like that. Okay, nice, very nice, good. For example, I want to store some boolean value. Boolean means true and false. Okay, let's take the one called boolean type, boolean data type. So I can take create one variable called status. Okay, and we can give anything variable name, but that is fine. I can store here true. Yeah, nice, very nice. For example, I want to store some double type of the data, which is something like 30.5. So I can't store those values inside the integer, character or boolean. So for that we have some double type of the data types. So I can write double and I can write d equal to 30 point something 5. Okay, so this is the double value I am able to store it. Okay, so based on that I am able to store the integer, character, boolean, doubles. Wow, nice, that is fine. So I am able to store the data, but now I want to store some string. String means some people name, yeah, some house name, some Aadhaar card number name, yeah, something like account number, yeah, something like phone number, email ID. So those data I'm not able to store inside the int, character, boolean or double because they are not accept those data type. These are not capable to store this data. So for that we have a one data type called string data type. So string is not a predefined data type. It's a it's not a predefined it's a not a user defined data type, or it's not a primitive data type. It's only and only is a called a it's a predefined, but it's a class type of data type. Class means what? Reference data type. Yes, reference data type. Okay, understood. So for example, I want to store some account number or email ID. So I will create one variables and I will write here. Okay, for example, my email, so prince@gmail.com. Okay, I am able to store the Gmail, phone numbers. Here I can store anything. In the string we can store whatever the string value will be possible, like email ID, phone number, account number, username, name, anything which is required as a string. So we can store inside the string, and a string is a one class. I hope you know, and it's a predefined class. So this is called a reference data type. This is called a reference data type. Let me do like that. So this is the reference data type, and I am able to store this data also. That is fine. Now I am thinking like I want to store. Okay, I want to store something like student data. So I want to store the student data, then I can create one student class, and inside the class I can give ID, name, or something like email ID, phone numbers, and those data I can store it so that it will become something like student object. Yes, student object we can create, and we can store the data inside this. Okay, so simply we can create a student, and s equal to new student. So just assume we already have a one. Just assume we have one student class. Okay, so we have already student class, and what I can do is I have already created the student object, so data type is created. Now I can add some value whatever the required inside this. So I can say like add set ID. So through that I can store the ID inside this. Okay, so let me store the ID 101, something like that. Okay, and s dot set name. This is the setup name I am using. So this is the name called Prince. Okay, name, and s dot set mobile number. Set mobile numbers, and here I can set something like in the string only, and I can give something like that, my numbers. Okay, so this is the one way through that I have stored the one student. Okay, I have stored one student. Now I am thinking, no, I want to store multiple student. I want to store multiple student. Multiple student means as of now we have stored only one integer value, then we have stored the string value, then we have created the student object, and we have created one student class already, and we have set the value inside the student object. So this is, we have done one object and we have stored the one student object. Now I want to store multiple student. Now I want to store multiple student. What can I do? Simple. How simple? How simple I am thinking. So if someone is saying like, okay, it's simple, so do one thing. Create multiple student first. So one student, two student, three student we have created. Okay, three student I have created, so I give the name like S1, S2 and S3. So this is the three student I have created, and just assume value is already set. So value is already set inside this, and this three student I have to store in one single variables. So if I want to store the multiple student, then I have to take the help of maybe the array or something collections. I have to take the help. So here multiple student we can store using array or collections. This is the only two options we have. So if I want to store multiple student, okay, in array, what is the step I have to follow? So for that I have to create one array which is a student type. So I will create one student array str, and I will give new student, but here I have to provide the size. So for example, in my case I have a 3 student, so I will give the size of the 3. So a student array is created, and now I can store the data inside this. So how can I store? Str of 0 positions, I will store s1, str of 1 positions, I can store like s2, so s2, str of str of like 2 positions. So index will be started with the 0. So we have stored this value also, okay, which is s3. Then I am able to store it in the array also. So what I have done is I have created one array which is a student type, and the student is a class. It's a user defined class, and we have created the array of the user defined class student array, which is able to store 3 object of a student. If I give here 5, I am able to store 5 student object, but right now 3 only. Okay. If the same thing I want to do with the collections, what I have to do? So if I want to store the multiple student object inside the collections, I can create one array list, I can create one linked list, I can create one hash set, I can create one vector, I can create one stack, and I can store it, no issue. But generally we are storing the something, if you have some data, so we are going with the array list, like array alternate array list in the collections. So you have to create one array list. So let me create one array list. Okay, so this is the array list, and I have to specify it. Hey, inside the array list I am going to store a student type of object. So I can write here a student, and here I will write list of student. Yeah, students list. I can give the name of the reference variable, and new array list, new array list I will create simply. And also here also we have give the type safe. Type safe means we can provide like, hey, you can't store any other type of object, you have to only store the student type of the object. Okay, so through that we can restrict these collections. So simply I have created one collections using the array list. Okay, and I have specified the generic type, means type safe also, which is student only. So this array list object will able to store only student type of the object. And now I will tell, hey student list, please store the first student. And also one more thing, here we don't want to specify the size, like what are the size of the student we are going to store. So it's a dynamic, as much you want you can store it. But here if you go with the array, you can store only and only 3 value only, you can't store more than that. So if you know what is the exact size of the student we have to store, go with the array. If you don't know, maybe in the future student will come more, or you have to store more student again, then please select the array list. And in that time what you can do is you can give like a student list, and this collection having a method called add, and through the add method we have a student reference. We have already a student object which is s1, s2, s3. So here you can write s1, okay, and store it. Same thing, copy this line of the code and paste it 2 times more, okay, and just format it. And here you can store the s1 we have already stored. So let's take the s2 and s3. So this is something we have discussed, like how we can store the multiple student object in the array list, how we can store the multiple object while creating an array of the student type, how we can create a student object also we have discussed, and how we can store the data, how we can store the data inside the every student object, how we can store the some boolean and float and double type of the data, string type of the data in Java. I hope it's clear as of now. Let's take one more point. Now it will fresh, I will do. Now let's take one more point. Okay. For example, I want to store one value. I want to store one value which is 5. So I can take one variables and I will store it int something like n, and I will store this value inside this int n. So n is a reference type and it's just store the value of n. Okay, fine. I want to store the two value which is 5 and 6. So I can create one more some like np variables and I will store inside the 6. Okay. I want to store something like one more value like int q. So I can take again something other value and we can store it. Okay. So while storing a 3 integer value, I have taken 3 variables. I have written 3 times int. I have created 3 variables and then I have a store here. Also I have maintained the syntax here also. Okay, that things I am doing, okay, while creating a variables. For example, we have some student marks. What we have? Student marks, and student marks is having like physics, chemistry, math, English, or something like Hindi. These are the 5 subjects he have. Okay, so for example, he have a marks in the 20 in the physics, okay, 30 in the chemistry, math having a 50, and English having a something like 60, and Hindi having a some 70 marks. Okay, and I want to store those data. Okay, I want to store those data, so I have to store like this all those data, and I have to provide also like some of this data. So if I create multiple variables for P, C, 30, 50 and 70, all those values, if I create a multiple variables, so how many times I have to create the variables? 5 times. Then only I can store those data. But if you create one array, and you can easily store all those data in one single line of the code. Okay, like 20, 30, 50, 60, 70, and we have stored the data also. Alright, so this is the benefit. So if you want to store multiple value inside this, if you want to store the same value, multiple value, then we can go with the array. Okay, if you want to store single value, you can go with a single variable, that is fine. Okay, so this is the things we have to understand. For example, we want list of the student ID only, so we can go and we can take the help of the array and we can fetch all those data and then we can store it. Okay, so this is the just I have introduced, like we can understood like how we are storing the data in the database. Okay, one more things I have to discuss with you, like guys, right now we are maintaining our data in like predefined classes, predefined data type. We are storing our data in array, we are storing data in a string, we are storing data in collection, we are storing data in map. Okay, so these are the concept we have to maintain the data in coding level, maintain the data in the coding level in Java. in Java language. But if you want to store, once your application is closed, this data will be stored, and those data will be stored inside the RAM memory. Those data will store in RAM memory in your system. So we don't know like when it will erase. Once your application is stopped or system is stopped, this data will be erased. It means this will erase. Everything is gone. But in the real-time application, if you go to some website, or if you go to some particular any application, and if you do some operation, even if you register in that application, your data will be stored permanently, not temporary. Again, after 2 days, after 5 days, you are going to that application, again you are giving your user ID and password, and you are able to log in that website. How? So, as a coding level, we are storing data in the predefined data types, which is int, char, float, boolean, sort, int, byte, those data types, array, string, collection, and map. Okay. So in that we are storing a reference data type also. So let me write a reference data type. So in the reference data type also we are storing our data. Okay, but those are erased because those data will be stored inside the RAM. RAM means one memory area, we have a heap area, heap memory area. So our Java application having a one Java virtual machine, JVM, those are capable to store the data in the heap memory area, and it will store in that place. Okay, but our data will be erased once your application is stopped or your system is stopped. But we want to save our data permanently. How we can do it? So for that we have to store our data. Okay, note. So for permanent storing the data, we have to take support of file and database. So what is the file? File means your system file. So your system file, which is hard drive, you can say hard disk. So you can store your data in the hard disk. So it will permanently save until your system will not crash or something like your hard disk will not erase, until your data will be fixed and it will permanently store in your file. But that is also not a safe place. So what we are doing is we are storing our data inside the database. Database means like we have a multiple database like relational database, RDBMS, like Oracle, MySQL. So we can store our data in database. Okay, database, and database is nothing but like we can say MySQL, Oracle. Okay, those are the database we can store our data. And hard disk and file means like pen drive, C drive, D drive, whatever the drive you have in your system, you can use it. Okay, and we can store the data inside this file. It will store permanently. Once you open again your application, it will fetch the data from that place and it will start working on that. Okay, so that your data will not erase. But as of now, whatever we have discussed, those data will erase after the computer is shut down or maybe your application is stopped. I hope it's clear. Now, if I talk about this is important, yes, this is very important to store the data in all those areas. And you have to aware about like how we can store the data efficiently. For example, if you want to store data in array and you are going to store the data in predefined data types, that is not good. If you want to store data in map and you are taking the help of the collection, that is not good. So based on your requirement, based on your work, like what exactly you want to store, so you have to understand like what is the purpose of array, what is the purpose of a string, what is the purpose of collection, map, and when we can store the data inside it. That is also very important things. So as of now you can understood like if you want to store the single value data, you can go with the predefined data types. If you want to store a something particular object data, for example a school, college, something like a student, something department, or something like some person name, some person address, then we can go with the reference data type. So we are creating one class and we are putting all those data inside this. Just before I have created one student class, those are the reference data type. If you want to store the arrays, so for example you have a single type of the data in the multiple. So for example, just before I have tell you, if you want to store 3 student data, that are the similar data types, which is a student only. So we can go with the array. But if you want to store some string like email ID, password, and some phone number, go with the string. And in the collection, if you have something like in the future maybe you want to store some more data, or maybe you have to delete some data, then we can go with the collection, so that dynamically it's resizable and it will maintain, it will like growable. If you want to store the value in the key value pair, then go with the map. So later we can discuss the map also, but as of now just understood these things, whatever as of now I have teach. Okay, thank you so much for this video. Okay, thank you.